Alex, thanks for being here today. So like I said, I started off by saying not only are you smart, connected, but you're a good-looking guy too.
Listen, I'm trying my best here.
There you go.
Nice to meet everybody.
Alex, the most important thing that I talk to people about is relationships. And you represent some of the most famous people in the world, but I'm more interested in how you decided to do what you were doing. Because everybody here, whether they're old or young, new entrepreneurs or not, has something they want to do or they wouldn't be here. How did you get started?
Yeah, so I'm 20 years old and I'm in Boston and trying to figure out what I want to do and what I want to be. And, you've got to be honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses. People always come to me and talk about business development, which I guess is part of every business. But you've got to ask yourself, are you an extrovert? Are you going to be able to sell? Are you going to be good in a big room, in a small room? And frankly, some of the most effective people that I've seen at convincing people to do things are quiet and introverted, and they just have a special way of connecting. There's one person I'm thinking of in particular that I think has probably the hottest VC firm in the country right now. He's an introvert, he's quiet, but when you talk to him, you always feel like he's listening to you, and he has this sort of magic power. But in any event, those people around me, you start listening and taking advice, not from people that are trying to do what they want you to do, but what, people who have your best interests in mind. And enough people sort of said, you should go be a lawyer. And I don't have lawyers in my families. I never intended to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer, frankly, but it allowed me to, I think, lean into what I'm best at, and then opened up other doors so that I can do whatever's next.
Do you consider yourself, and I mean this sincerely, because I think it's the highest form of flattery, but you don't have to agree with me, but do you consider yourself a salesman?
I don't, because I've always worried that, if you're running a top 5 hedge fund, you're running, you're the top lawyer, you're the top doctor, that's not a profession that works to sell. So what I'm really doing is auditioning live, and if people like the results and the way I conduct myself, that's my salesman tactic. It's not to approach.
When you started representing high-profile people, can you remember the first time you represented someone who you thought, wow, this is crazy, I'm representing this person? Can you remember that experience, or did it just naturally happen for you?
There wasn't one specific moment. I've been asked so many times about the first meeting with Elon and I and others, and sort of how that came to be. And I can remember it and recount it in my own mind, and maybe one day those will make an interesting collection of stories. But I sort of was never that taken aback, which, for whatever that's worth, I think that's been part of the key, is that I shoot people straight, and it doesn't really intimidate me or excite me too much. Doesn't matter who I'm helping. And so I think that's frankly helped. I think if they picked up on me being, sort of wowed, it wouldn't work. The dynamic wouldn't work. But, there have been moments with Mick Jagger, from Mick Jagger down, where, at least for a second I said, wow, it's kind of cool. But not much, frankly.
But did you have a relationship that helped you get started? Like when you first became a lawyer, Mick Jagger didn't call you. I mean, some particular relationship?
Zero, frankly. And that's, when I tell people I don't want to come speak at something, or, don't write that book that talks about me, I say, who the hell wants to read that? People are always handing me their books or telling me their stories, and I don't really care that much. I don't know why anybody wants to hear mine. And what people often say back to me is, well, you weren't born on third base. And nobody handed me a damn thing. Frankly, other lawyers don't really even refer me business. It was all sort of grit, self-made. And I think if there's one thing that I'm most proud of, it's that.
My relationship with you started off in the most unique way to me. Now, it's probably not unique to you, but the idea that we could get on the phone and just immediately connect and we didn't have to go through any of the bullshit, do you think that was because of Marshall, or do you think it was just because, why was it so easy for you? Because it seemed like you were just completely zoned in. I was on the same spot you were. I don't need any documents with you. I'm agreeing with you. It was just an amazing, refreshing way to do business. Do you do that all the time?
Well, you're a real person. I'm a real person. It's always easy when there's that. Other people have all sorts of, I mean, we all have our flaws, but what I say you can count on, and you seem to be the same way, so that makes it easier. And the second thing is I'm always looking, you get to the point where I'm looking to try to find solutions for other people. If I can't deliver solutions, then it's not going to be good for either of us, and I don't need to waste my time or your time. So when I see somebody who has a bunch of things cooking and a lot of horsepower behind them and needs to fit the big jigsaw pieces together, I'm pretty good at that. And I'm not, the flip side of that is I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not going to start 15 things. I know that about myself, but I've taken some of the greatest artists in the world, the creatives in the world, the people that are the top brands in the world, and been able to sort of say, okay, let's take a sort of Harvard Law approach to not having 10,000 balls in the air and landing a few of these and doing it in a way that tells one cohesive story, uses my goodwill and my brain for the better and kind of adds one to the other. And then the yin and the yang work perfectly together. And so, not only was there genuineness to it, but I think it's a good, case study fit.
Katie, what would be the top question you'd ask him? If you were going to ask the question, do you know what it would be? Because I kind of know what it would be. Does everyone want me to ask the question? You guys know the question, right? He knows the question too, dude. I don't know if he'll answer it because him and I didn't prep for this. This just come undone. Is everything okay? Can he still hear me? Good.
I never prep for these things, so that's good.
No prep, him and I. But I guess we have to ask the question, how is the richest man in the world your friend and client?
He's great.
No, specifically, how did you meet the richest man in the world?
Well, that's a longer story that, I think there may have been articles or things that have told it. I'm not gonna get into the personalized details of it, but the reality is we've obviously been working together for a long time. He's, what he's done from a technology and entrepreneurial perspective has changed the world, and he's done lots of other things too. So he's, full throttle. He is, to use the name of the conference, very RiskOn, and he does a lot of big things. And somebody, when you do those kinds of things and you speak as openly as he does, it can create controversy and be polarizing. But as somebody who works for me, who I think of as not the demographic, I won't get too deep into this, but not the demographic that would necessarily love him. I said, what do you think? What do you think? Sort of to get a contrarian view. And she said to me, everybody else is out sitting on their boats. At least he's doing things. I respect it. So that's what I would say. He's doing things.
You remember that movie, Born on the 4th of July? It was about Larry Flint. You remember that? You ever see that movie?
Vaguely.
So he's getting on the plane, his lawyer's yelling at him saying, you can't leave the state, you can't do this. And he said, what's wrong with you? I'm the greatest client in the world. I'm rich and I'm always in trouble.
I got to find that clip.
Is he the greatest client in the world, or do you like, I mean, is that something that I guess everyone in this audience would say, if you follow him, he's got to be one of the most dynamic people in the world. And I got to assume, Walter Isaacson wrote about you in his book about Elon, that you were the only guy, I think he said, that had the ego and the talent to back it up. Elon, is that like the highest compliment Elon Musk has ever given anyone?
I don't know if it's the highest he's ever given anybody, but I have heard he says it about me. What I would just say is you got to be able to, stand your ground and share your views. You have to do that with any important person. If you're going to really advise them, if you're just going to sit there and be a sycophant or a potted plant, I don't know what good you're doing. When you get to people as complex and as powerful, whatever the word is he and as smart as he is, that's tricky because he is smart in many, many different ways. It was remarkable to me when I saw how good he was on economic issues, macroeconomic issues, the markets and things like that. He's not just the product person or an engineer. And he's just an incredibly quick study. He bounces from topic to topic, meeting to meeting. It's remarkable. So you've got to be able to have enough confidence in your abilities and the strength to push back, or you're not very useful. And, being a lawyer is easiest when the fact patterns are something you could look up in a book. It's still complicated if you represent powerful, big technology companies and complicated matters. It's always going to be complicated. But the more they are wedded to doing what they did yesterday and to what they did before, the easier it is. With him, every hour is something that never happened before and is a complete challenge. So that keeps life interesting, and hopefully I can keep up.
What are you doing next? Because I know you're sought after. You're representing Eric Adams from New York. I know you take selected cases on. What's next for you?
If I knew exactly, I'd already be doing it. But I have become very selective in what I take on. It doesn't mean I bat 1,000, but I try to really pick my spots. Now there's too many cases, too many people, and I don't want to just be a lawyer. And so I'm looking at other business things that I can do that I think I can add value on. And, finding one perfect fit that I can do full time hasn't happened, but we're in the early innings. If you looked at my legal career in the second or third inning, you'd say, okay, no big wow here. And my plan is to make the business career outpace the legal career. So it's early innings. Right now, I decide who I want to work with and have a few relationships with people who I help their companies and businesses, and we'll see where it all goes.
I think that you guys are watching one of the top, right here, Alex is one of the top guys in terms of being an entrepreneur, making things happen for people. We talked about this earlier about how if you want to get far in life, help other people, you'll get really far. That's what Alex does. And it was probably one of the rarest relationships I've ever started where we were right to business in a few minutes. And I asked Alex to do this on a whim because I said, dude, people have to understand what I'm so mesmerized by just the beginning of our relationship and how it's rare to have something this simple happen, but it all lines up for a reason. Alex, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. I'll, of course, be talking to you shortly because we got a lot of things brewing. I appreciate you, everybody. Guys, are ready. Give it up for Alex Spiro. Thank you. Thank you, Alex.